I think if I didn't have the means of expressing myself and externalizing those feelings, I probably wouldn't be here. And I know so many artists that can say the same. It has a sort of reverberation effect. When one person shines their light and then someone else sees that, then it's a chain. It's a butterfly effect, which is also why it's so desperately trying to be kept from us. It has the ability to change minds, change lives, change hearts, and change the world.
Hello, and welcome to Power Beyond Pride, a weekly queer change-making podcast bringing you voices and ideas from across our fierce and fabulous spectrum to transform our world. I'm Lukas, lifelong harm reduction activist, owner of a great idea, and a collector of way too many records. And that's why I'm excited for today's episode.
And I'm Daniel W.K. Lee, poet, author, and your hot dad's slam piece. We are your co-hosts for today's Queercast journey. In this episode, we are joined by an artist who doesn't just make music, they build emotional landscapes you can actually live in. Ashley Bray Jr. is a queer, neurodivergent singer, songwriter, and activist. Her music has been described as the kind that cracks you open and somehow stitches you right back up at the same time. Welcome to the pod, Ashley.
Thank you so much. And those are such nice words that you have to say about my art. Thank you so much.
It's beautiful. I've been listening to your streaming services. I've been listening to your music, and it's fabulous. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Power Beyond Pride. I got introduced to your work at the North Carolina Folk Festival. So again, I'm really just so glad that you're able to join today. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Your sound, like Daniel said, your sound has been called raw contemporary angst that moves through hopelessness, healing, justice, and the community with a tenderness and honesty that is rare. Now, I don't know where that's coming from, but somebody's bringing poetry to your poetry. That's what I'm saying right here. So talk to me a little bit about how would you describe your emotional tone and the language you bring together as an artist?
Yeah. Well, songwriting, before it became something that I shared in any sort of public or performance capacity, it was sort of my safe place, my means of emotionally processing and my means of communicating and putting not just words, but sort of some feelings are a little bit more than words. And so it was really a therapeutic practice before it became something that I shared performatively. And so I'd been engaging in that practice since I was a child, and over time started to kind of share it in pieces with people and realize how powerful it can be to share honestly those very heavy feelings, those very heavy emotions. And when you have found a way to put words or sound to it, and then it resonates with other people, there's a lot of healing that comes from that and a lot of conversations that come from that. So that's kind of where it all started for me.
Did the words or the music come first for you?
Well, I started playing both, I would say. I started playing music in church, actually, and that's not really a part of my belief system anymore. But I grew up with that weekly community singing, and I'm super grateful for that, for its role in my music education. And I had pretty decent English teachers in middle and high school who encouraged the creative language arts part of it. And so when I'm writing, I'm going to get a little woo-woo here, but
Go all the woo-woo, but bring the Oxford commas.
Yes. So I don't know. I feel like creativity is this thing that exists in this liminal space that is around us, vibrating always. And it's like an ether that we can tune our frequencies towards. And there's a whole bunch of different doorways to get into that ether. You can start with lyrics, you can start with sound, you can start with rhythm, you can start with a melody. And it's really just about attuning yourself to that. And then when you hear that creative inspiration in your brain, then accepting it and then seeing where it takes you.
Do you remember your first song that you wrote?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Gosh, it was really cheesy. It was like, I think it was like in the 8th grade. And I wrote it was like, I wanna be like a butterfly. I'll spread my wings and I'll touch the sky. Something super corny like that.
How is that not a Kelly Clarkson classic
I
already right
know.
there? That
I
feels
should
very
have.
Kelly Clarkson out the gate.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
But I'm actually right now, this will be the third year I'm engaging in a songwriting challenge that me and a couple different songwriters around in my local community and also my online community have been doing. We call it 50 songs in 50 days. And we start 50 days from the end of the year and then try to write a song every day for those 50 days. And each person gets to kind of define for themselves what counts as a song. Maybe it's finishing an idea that you already had, or maybe it's just poetry, or maybe it's just a riff. And there's not really any stakes to it. It's more so just like a creative practice that's keeping the seasonal sads away. So,
And
uh,
bragging rights. And
and
bragging
yeah,
rights. A little bit of
yeah,
bragging.
and a little bit of bragging rights, but it's also, I don't know, that practice. I feel like there's freedom that can be obtained through limitation, and so time being a limiting factor, I'm not going to be super precious about and critical because I literally don't have time to. It's like I got to write a song today, so sometimes some of the best ideas come out when you can put in a framework of limitation that maybe will block those internal criticisms.
I love that. So Daniel is a poet. I certainly have a history in my own writing, and we can all go back to those early poems. Mine says, so yours was Butterfly. Mine was like, the sweet beauty of death. Because it had to be like, very, it was like, comma, right? It had to be this just very, I don't know, Poe inspired or whatever. I was
Sure.
all the drama of high school that I could just throw in. And then it got better, I think, maybe a little bit.
Right.
But like those early poems, always. But that yields like a butterfly. I'm gonna come bring it back to that.
Bring
Like
it
a
in.
butterfly, now you are flying. Now you are bringing in so much creativity and storytelling into your work that, again, we need those places to start, right? We need those places to grow. And you do that through community so much of the time. It's what's so incredible about your feed, what's so incredible about the work that you're doing. And so I would love to know, like, how do you feel like you've helped build community? How do you feel like you've been part of community and the role it's had for you in that creativity?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think there's like I'm very grateful to community because I owe so much to it. We owe so much to each other. And what's the use of all this channeling these messages if not to reflect it back on something? Uh, and the world that we're living in right now needs we were not made to be so hyper individualized. Uh, and so I got my start in the open mic scene. I have a lot to owe to my local community. A lot of the music that I've been able to make, I've crowdfunded for an album in the past. I've crowdfunded to do a songwriting workshop. So that kind of support, I don't know, it gives back. It's not to say that it's like a quid pro quo sort of thing. It's more just like a rising tide raises the ships together. If you look around, podcast viewers at home, I am in a closet and I'm currently in the lovely city of
Only
Glendon, North.
physically. Only
Only
physically.
only
I'm just saying, only
physically,
physically.
only physically. But I'm in the small town of Glendon, North Carolina right now, which is the home to this beautiful old farmhouse. And there's a songwriter that lives here, great community maker. Her name's Laura Jane Vincent, and she hosts. Yes, okay. I owe so much to this woman. She's such a dear friend and just a builder of community. And she has this big old house, and twice a year she opens it up to the scene, and people come together and they pitch a tent in the lawn and flop on the whatever couches are open, and there's a stage on the front porch, and it's a music festival, but it's also a potluck, but it's also just a family reunion. Capitalism has no role in the existence of it. Everyone kind of pitches in and brings something, and it's a really beautiful thing. And just those kinds of connection, those spaces is really important in the face of fascism and despair. Queer joy, a space to uplift each other is what keeps the fire going. So really glad to be here in the closet, only
Physically,
only
Physically.
physically.
Okay.
but queer
Yeah,
joy. I love hearing about queer joy.
for sure, for sure. You brought up your kind of queer identity, and I'd love to kind of hear from you how identity shapes the way you tell your stories through music, not just in themes, but also in performance.
Yeah. So I consider myself gender fluid. I she and they pronouns, and I like to think of, I don't know, my relationship with gender in general. I mean, and gender is a performance, right? And some days I want to go on stage, and some days I do not. Uh, and so that's sort of my relationship to my own gender expression. Uh, how it influences the music that I make, I think, just inherently informs the music that I make, that because it's informed by the music that I'm listening to. Uh, those themes of love, those themes of belonging, healing are sort of woven into the music that I make, the poetry that I write. And yeah, that's a little, I hope that answers your question.
It's beautiful in the sense that there is such an opportunity in storytelling to adopt a variety of roles, a variety of personas, and again, so many of your stories harken back to both folk from the past, right? It brings in some of that
Mm,
storytelling, some of that simplicity, some of the classic piece, but also some very modern storytelling. Again, I think about your flag decal that won't get you into heaven is such great commentary in the current moment, right? That does some really profound,
Thank you.
commentary and critique of currently the kind of performative patriotism that doesn't really line up to people's values. And it's doing it in such a way that certainly harkens back to, again, I think of Arlo Guthrie, I think of so many other
Hmm.
people, but also queer identities within folk have always been so present. I guess
Yeah.
I think about arbitrating. I think about Tracy Chapman, right? I think about so many other people who have, I would say, either been in the sort of before we considered it non-binary or gender fluid spaces, lived within these spaces where they either defied gender presentation as it was provided, as it was presented. I think about, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Blue. Oh my gosh, it's such a classic album. Joni Mitchell.
Oh, Joni Mitchell.
I think about many other creators who were just profound in their ability to make wonderful critiques about where the culture is, but also recognize they could make choices that defied gender norms. Do you feel like in your own work, are there artists that you mentioned Laura Jean Vincent, who's here in North Carolina, certainly has a great influence, is a wonderful creator, a very talented musician, brings so much into the conversation and supporting other artists. Are there other artists that you look to or have looked to that have influenced your work?
Yeah. Well, great question. And one artist that is an absolute hero of mine, we're harkening back to the 60s and 70s folk artist. Most folks have not heard of her. Her name is Judy Sill, Judeessill. And she was an openly bisexual woman in the 60s and 70s. She was signed to Asylum Records, the same label of the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Linda Ronstadt, Joni Mitchell. But she was not commercially successful. She had a very tumultuous life, grew up in a pretty traumatic household, ended up rebelling and running away, robbed some banks and liquor stores, and learned how to play music in prison. And
It
Mm.
sounds like a
got
folk song. I mean, I'm
she
just saying
is.
that
She's a
sounds like
folk
a folk song.
she is a folk hero, and led this very tumultuous life. And her music transcends all of it. It just channels this hopefulness and this beauty and strength that is so profound. And unfortunately, Judy passed away at the age of 35, succumbed to addiction, and her music didn't get its flowers in its day. But there's so many artists of today. Some of your favorite artists, probably Judy Still's probably their favorite. Like Big Thief is a band that I adore. They also cite Judy Still as an influence. But yeah, the she's a big influence on me. Her songwriting style, and just overall the way that she used music to transcend the trauma and the life that she has been through. And that's something that I try to bring into my own songwriting. Sure, I can write a song that expresses grief and woe, and there's a place for that. And I do certainly try to channel that emotion in the right into a song in the right context. But there is a power in what we're doing with sound in gathering people's attention. And so I feel very called to use that power to inject some hope back into the world. It's what keeps me going. It hopefully keeps other people going. I feel like it's almost the artist's responsibility to, I don't know, not just make some noise to distract everybody. We have an opportunity to raise our collective consciousness a little bit. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And that's some folks that inspire me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to take a short break now. We are here at Power Beyond Pride having an amazing conversation with the musician, I'm going to say poet. I'm going to say there's so much poetry in the work you do. Ashley Virginia. I'm here with my co-host Daniel, and we will be right back after this break.
Welcome back. This is Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast, and I am Daniel W.K. Lee here with my co-host Shane Lukas, and we're having the most insightful and amazing conversation with Ashley Virginia. The next follow-up question, the next question I have is, what ways has the LGBTQ community carried you during your creative journey, and in what ways do you think our community has fallen short in supporting cultural producers, especially those outside of the capitalist entertainment industry?
Yeah. Well, I think sharing community with other queer folks and supporting each other, and especially, I don't know, it's one thing to have a goal of a career, right? But creating those spaces where it's safe to express, it's safe to experiment. There's so much we can learn from one another. And so I would say that's one way that the queer community has shaped me and supported me is being a founder of a safe space for me. And yeah, I think maybe just in general, we let each other down when we kind of get a bit too individualistic in it and make it about some sort of capitalistic goal. Yeah, I said earlier, a rising tide raises all ships, and liberation is achieved collectively. So, yeah, I think we let each other down when we are a bit too individualized.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Thinking about our collective sharing, especially at a time where people with trans experience are being talked about outside of our communities rather than
Mhm.
inside our communities, that we really talk they're key. They're part of our lone liberation movement, right? Like when we talk about collective queer liberation, it is in fact our trans non-binary community members. And I think making sure that we think about ourselves collectively, right? And elevating that.
And intersectionally as well. Queer issues intersect with racial issues, which intersect with capitalism, which intersect with colonialism. It's all tied together.
I was gonna say, in terms of the folk work that you do you think that's what draws you to folk in many ways? Do you think that it has a history of that intersectionality? I think about a lot of people don't think about folk from a queer perspective, and I'm because it's so central to, I think, the work that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Do you think that folk is inherently queer
Folk is
in many ways?
so queer. And I don't know, there's almost two folks. There's like the folk that has been co-opted and commercialized and it's a genre. And then there's folk, which is people, you know? So there's so many different kinds of folk music. There's the American folk music that we think of, the Bob Dylans, the Joni Mitchells, the Joan Baez's of the world. And that's still valid, but it's through this lens of consumption and genrefying. But
Well, isn't there's a
folk,
couple artists on the market today, right, that are pretty popular. We would consider kind of folk, rocky. I'm
yeah,
blanking on his name, but the
Jesse
one guy who's
Wells is that guy who sings the news. I don't think he's queer though. One queer artist that's a folk artist that I'm friends with and inspired by constantly is Olive Klug. Is a incredible singer songwriter. They just are so raw and honest and poignant and gentle, but powerful. Another artist of today that is a great queer artist and activist is Willie Carlisle. I love his music, and his shows are a party. And queer joy, queer liberation, collective liberation is at the forefront of it. But pro- protest music is folk music. Folk has always been a sort of means of resistance, a means of storytelling, and the ability to tell one's story is powerful because when people know your story and they understand what has made you, what has shaped you, what has molded you, then something happens from that. It's either that like visibility in existence, understanding of someone else's struggle, a call to action, a revitalization of one's courage. That's all. That's all inherently what folk is to me. And mainstream folk may not be seen as like queer, but I think folk is inherently very queer because it is against the grain, and it always has been.
would you say like the success of artists like Noah Kahn or Zach Bryan help or kind of hinder kind of advancing the work you want?
They're doing their thing, and they're doing their thing, and they got some good tunes, and somebody might hear a Noah Kahn and go, "Oh, I really like that," and then that brings them inspires them to dig a little bit deeper, and then through realizing that they like the sounds of banjos and acoustic strings, they might happen upon something else and someone else, and you can be invited into and inspired by all kinds of musicians. I wouldn't say it hurts. I would say if anything, it's neutral to the cause.
People have their own lanes, and sometimes
They
you are
do.
just like inspired by their lane and be like, you know what, I'm going to diverge some other place or whatever. The exodus for me is over here.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I mean, I have so many questions around the
Yeah,
industry. We have so many, but one of them is making a living, right? Like I think about queer artists and artistry, and one of the biggest challenges is how do you make a living at a time like this,
mm,
particularly where so much of what has been classically the pathway to economy, right? Live shows and selling recordings, stuff like that. But now we have streaming services, and the big debate is, of course, do we stick with programs like Spotify and other things like that? Other alternatives that exist out there, like Qobuz, are trying to be more community sensitive. Like, how do you navigate that? Because it is about finding your audience too. How do you navigate
sure.
that as an independent artist?
Yeah, gosh, I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that question. I'm a full-time artist at this point in my life, and getting to this point was certainly a journey. There was a period of time where I did balance my work as an artist with a day job and or several day jobs, and there's no shame in that. I think your value and your, I don't know, identity as an artist is not inherently tied to how much of it keeps the wolf from your door and how much money you're making off of it. I did have that job for some time, and I kept with it and was burning a candle at both ends. It was quite exhausting. I did end up quitting. I had a job working within the industry, and I did end up quitting that job because the board of directors of the organization said I had to be neutral about Palestine in order to continue to represent their organization. And that's sort of a deal breaker for me. Ultimately, we're all just trying to survive. And so some folks maybe have to make those choices and those concessions to be able to continue to survive. That's certainly was a line for me. And so I kind of quit my job very abruptly without much of a plan or a safety net other than, well, that the price of that is my soul and that's not for sale. So quit my job and got thrust into freelancing. And it was a sort of jump in the net appears moment. I mentioned earlier just how important community has been. And that's why I was able to make that choice to step out of line, because I did have the safety net of people around me that were like, no, I got you. Like, we're behind you. I ended up picking up I have a bunch of side hustles and gig work. I do graphic design. I did edit videos for people. I make websites. Like it's a hustle. It's exhausting, but ultimately the wolf is not at the door, and people step up and take care of each other. So I forget what your original question was. I think I maybe started rambling a little bit,
Survival.
Yeah.
but
Survival.
yeah, we're all just trying to survive. And I had a really cool opportunity a month ago to speak at my college to their class of upcoming popular music and technology majors. And they wanted sort of my take on what it's like after college working in the music industry in the world. And my advice is like, it's messy. It's not easy. I don't have health insurance, or I don't know if I'm going to have health insurance once the government reopens. I'm paycheck to paycheck sometimes, oftentimes. I'm hustling, but if you can find a way to keep the wolf from the door, if you can find a way to survive capitalism and not let that burn out your joy and your heart and your reasoning for existing, and uh, then you're making it, that you're still an artist. I really don't, I try not to give into the whole illusion of making it. Nobody, we're all surviving. We're all trying. Yeah.
Speaking of students, you've held like songwriting workshops and stuff like that, which kind of something that you mentioned earlier, which kind of can be a source of an audience, right? But I'm kind of interested in how, okay, I mean, obviously music education and like teaching individuals, not just young people, how to express themselves through songwriting and music is really central to, I think, our experience as just individuals. But thinking about it in connection with kind of systems and helping individuals, and clearly you are interested in educating people and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. What would be your kind of soapbox message on why the arts is so imperative to kind of keep on teaching, and then especially to subsequent generations of LGBTQ people?
Yeah. I mean, music is so important. It's always been there for me. It will always be there for you. And I think creativity is sort of a birthright. Music, we've kind of conceptualized it in our late stage capitalism world as this thing that you're like either talented or you're not. And the talented ones get to go and have a career and go on stage. And but like, making music is what makes us human. Creating art is what makes us human. And so it's, you don't need to be talented. Talent is just time and focused attention. And in the age of constant consumption, your attention is such a valuable resource. So I think it's sort of a taking back your power when you apply it to something beautiful and creative and present. And yeah, education is a huge part of my, I don't know, what's important to me, because it's making music, being able to express yourself creatively, whether that be through singing, writing, drawing, dancing, whatever. It is a way to express our humanity and make sense of the world. I am neurodivergent and I feel things very heavily. And music was this way for me to channel that even when I'm going through tumultuous life experiences, when I'm weighed down by grief, that rage, that angst, that joy has a container that doesn't live within my body. Because when that trauma, when those feelings are repressed and not expressed, your true sense of being, when we're covering that up, it becomes a physical manifestation in physical illness and chronic illness. So finding a container for those heavy emotions and just externalizing them is so important. I feel often when I'm in teaching spaces and teaching songwriting and working with young folks, I feel almost more like a therapist than like a songwriting teacher, because it really is, I don't know, in its purest form. I do think that is a song is a spell. It's magic. And so yeah, I it's so important to to focus your attention on creativity. I think it's reclaiming something that has always been yours. And everyone can make music. Everyone can express themselves creatively, but there was probably someone along the way who discouraged you, and then you internalized that voice in your head. This is also why I like to do these sort of songwriting challenges and workshops and classes, because through repetition and applied focus, that's how skills are built. So if you give yourself permission to be bad at it, you're eventually going to be good at it. My first songwriting teacher is his name is Mark Dillon, and he would always say, "You got to give yourself permission to suck. You're just like you got to write bad songs to write good songs. And if the worst outcome of all of it is writing a bad song, then like you never have to show that to anybody." I think songwriting can really be this very personal thing, or this means of connection between a group of people. So go at it, express yourself. You can be bad at this. You'll inevitably get better at it if you continue to work at it. It's what makes us human.
And it can save lives. It's a skill
It
that can save your own life.
I absolutely. I think if I didn't have the means of expressing myself, I've at different times in my life, I have a couple different acronyms of mental illness, and without that means of expressing myself and externalizing those feelings, I probably wouldn't be here. And I know so many artists that can say the same. It's saved my life, and I never know who else is listening when I am sharing those terrifying pieces of myself. It has a sort of reverberation effect, which is why it's so powerful. Because when one person shines their light and then someone else sees that, then it's a chain. It's a butterfly effect, which is also why it's so desperately trying to be kept from us, because it's powerful. It has the ability to change minds, change lives, change hearts, and change the world. I truly do believe that.
Can I share something? Because what you've just said is just
Please,
mind blown. And I know we got to go to break here in a minute, but I just want to share. First of all, absolutely
please,
powerful. And I want to say, as somebody who has grown up neurodivergent as well, and really, I realize hearing you even share this, right? Like the permission to make noise, not just permission to make bad songs, but permission to make noise, to take something and create something that all music, like you said, folk music was the creation of just noise, just sitting around with a drum and padding out a pattern, right? Or I don't know, a flute, or taking a reed and doing that while you're in the field if you're a shepherd, whatever the case, like all the different ways people have made noise in music to convey their feelings. I remember being like a high school kid, and like I would find times when no one else was in the chorus. So I was in the chorus, so I got to sing, which is fine, and for better or
hmm
worse. But like I never learned how to pick up an instrument, but I would go in the chorus practice room and I would just sit at a piano, which I do not know how to play, and I would make songs. But I would
hmm
make songs because it was the only, like, it was for me, it was that alone time to just focus that energy, that moment, to create something that was mine, that was just my way of feeling in the moment. It was just like these patterns and just, I mean, the most rudimentary key changes, what key, not even key changes, barely, right? Just the
right.
most rudimentary thing. But I would do that for hours, and I would do it for days. At one point, I got hired to just go into a place and like it was like quasi Yanni to just play music in the background. I don't even know what a black key is in it. Like it was all the
Right.
white because I was so afraid. Well, yeah, I was so afraid about the black keys that I was like, I can't touch those things, but I can touch all the other ones. But it was noise, and some of it was pretty. It was like generically busy, whatever, basic chords, but it was for me, it was a moment. I didn't need to be great. I didn't need to be famous. I
No.
wasn't to be Richard Marx, which when I grew up, that was the moment of all the Richard Marxiness of the world. So I'm right here waiting. It was just a moment to create something. And I think hearing you say that was like, people need permission to be able to create something that isn't for consumption, that isn't mapped against this idea about can I market it? Can I create it in such a way? But actually, am I able to feel better about the world, connect to something tactile, tangible, human,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
really move into that? So I just want you to say how powerful that statement was. And like, I heard it, and as a young queer
Mm,
kid, like, hell's yeah.
thank you. And on that, if I may, before we go to break, there's science that backs up why this works. Your vagus nerve is the nerve that is responsible for your parasympathetic nervous system. This is the way that your body processes trauma, the way that your body reacts to trauma. And part of the process of healing any sort of trauma in your body is through stimulating the vagus nerve. Singing is a incredible way to stimulate the vagus nerve. Sound in itself. There are whole people that study sound healing and different tuning forks and vibrations that can be used to break up that energy stored in your body. But you are literally healing yourself from trauma when you are using your voice and making sounds. I think it's even more powerful when it's done in groups of people. This is why many major religions utilize music. It That's why group singing is such a big part of worship in so many organized religions. They don't own that. And so any space that we can reclaim that magic, it's so important. And it has the power to save lives, change lives, heal people. And you have permission to do it.
Oh, beautiful. And on that note, we are going to go to break. Thank you for sharing all that. We'll be right back after this break with the amazing, talented, the healing
Oh.
Ashley Virginia here at Power Beyond.
Hey, this is Sean Aaron, he, him, his, and I'm here to tell you about Them Boys Podcast. I'm the host of Them Boys Podcast, and as a Black queer trans man, the podcast amplifies the voices of other trans men of color as we share our transition stories. The podcast not only amplifies the voices of trans men of color, but it raises awareness and conversations around our lived experiences. You can listen to the podcast by going to themboys.org/podcast. That's DEMBOIS.org/podcast. I hope to have you join us on the next episode.
Your mission is vital. Let a great idea help you magnify its impact. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency serving nonprofits, healthcare, and education nationwide since 2015, we're dedicated to growing, empowering, and activating your advocates. Our award-winning work speaks for itself. We deliver transformative change. Ready to see your impact grow? Book a session and let's get started at agreatidea.com. That's agreatidea.com.
Welcome back to Power Beyond Pride. I'm Daniel W.K. Lee, and I'm here with my co-host, Shane Lukas, and we're in conversation with the talented Ashley Virginia.
All right, it's time for the speed round questions, which means we're going to ask something. You can't spend a lot of time thinking about it, and then we're literally going to tear it apart. But like in theory, we're just going to get one answer. But Daniel and I are totally going to fixate on it for the duration of the entire. So,
Awesome.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. What's a dream collaboration with someone living or dead that you would set your heart on fire?
Dream collaboration. I absolutely adore the band Big Thief and Adrienne Lenker specifically, who is an incredible artist, also queer artist. I love I'm about to soapbox. Sorry. Adrienne
Yeah.
Lenker is dream collaboration. Living, dead would be Judy Sill.
100% makes sense. And Adrienne Lenker is amazing. So we're all on board with that. They continue to share such amazing, but independently and as part of Big Thief. So yeah, again, go and
Yeah,
check out their catalog because they're prolific and brilliant. So,
agreed.
what's a lyric of yours that still surprises you every time you share it?
Mm. I have a song called Habit Forming, and it talks about first my relationship to alcohol, which I'm sober from that these days. My relationship to smoking and how I I turn towards maybe these substances in moments of numbing. And then the second half of the song talks about I started singing again. I started the last verse. It gets to this big build, and then the lyrics are I started praying again, but I'm not sure quite to who. I'm not interested in arguing. It's whatever gets you through because I am a higher power. And the same is true for you. We are ripples in the water. We are currents passing through. And I just love every time I get to perform that and watching that kind of sit with folks. And then the conversations that end up resulting from that afterwards, constantly surprising. Uh, And yeah, it's a joy to share that reflection.
Beautiful.
That's amazing. When the world feels heavy, what's something you do that brings you back to yourself?
Mm. When the world feels heavy and bringing me back to myself, the phrasing of that I think is very key because when it is a storm outside, those are the moments when I find myself going inward the most, going deeper. So that can look like a number of different things. It can look like picking up a guitar and just noodling, or maybe picking up a pen and just writing. And again, there's no destination in mind. It's just a, a practice of going inward. Sometimes that looks like taking a freaking nap. Sometimes that's the most incredible thing that you can do for the process is just taking care of your vessel. Sometimes it looks like cooking myself a meal that is nutritious and whole foods. Sometimes it's taking a walk in the sunset, getting lost. Uh, yeah, but most importantly, it is when it is crazy outside, going inward brings me back to myself. And then taking that, what I've learned in those moments of being inward, taking that outward, I think is where the real magic exists. So it can't entirely forever. I mean, I could live inside my head forever and always, but that would eventually maybe get a little bit sad. There's some balance to be struck.
Absolutely.
Great answer. Most romantic gesture someone could do for you.
Mm, writing a song,
Oh,
writing a song for me. I've had a friend write a song for me uh, who was actually performing at this here Porch Music Festival, and it was a platonic expression, but such a romantic gesture. Being able to categorize someone into a song and express a feeling, I think it's the way that I make sense of my emotions. So when someone else can do that back towards me, it's incredible.
That's great. Now imagine yourself in the mixtape era.
Mm.
Now, what song of yours could you use to end a situationship?
I have a song called "Change Is My God," and the chorus is "Change is my God, and I'll kneel at the altar, take hold of the reins, without fear or falter. No promise remains of some heavenly Father, because change is my God, and I'll always exalt her." Which is also a reference to Olivia Butler. If you have ever read Parable of the Sower, great book. Give it a read.
oh, yeah. Which I think they're probably turning into a movie. I
Ooh,
think.
okay.
I think. Been long overdue. It's been long. And I think they're finally exploring that as a movie because it's a classic. It's a classic.
It is. It is.
Original
It's
show.
almost prophetic in sort of predicting the way of the world. It takes place in
100%.
2025. Really crazy book. But yeah, changes my God, ending a situationship. Perfect song.
All right. Keeping in the theme of music, because I'm a music nerd. So I want to know,
Yeah.
what is your guiltiest pleasure bop? Like the obvious guiltiest pleasure that you're like, no one knows this, but now we all do. Well, we're all going to keep it a secret. Everybody listening, we're all going to agree to do this. Keep it a secret.
So when I was growing up in the small town of New Bern, North Carolina, I used to work at a bakery, and the music they would play at this bakery was like the early 2000s absolute trash country music, the very commercialized. Told her way up yonder past the caution line is a little country store. Like those kinds of tunes. There's a song, I think it's called Ticks. I don't remember who it's by, but it's like, I'd like to kiss you out in the moonlight. I'd like to walk you way back in the sticks. And I'd like to walk you through a field of wildflowers. And I'd like to check you for ticks. There's like a genre. I know, right? There's like I don't know, country music can get a little bit, I don't know. Country music has definitely been commodified, but there's a campiness to country music that I think is so queer and so fun. I have a little playlist on my phone that's called Super Yeehaw, and that's my guilty pleasure is that Super Yeehaw. It harkens me back to those days of working in that bakery, which connects me to my childhood a little bit at a time where I was not more freely expressing myself. And it's silly, it's campy, it's fun. That's my guilty pleasure is that trashy pop country.
But that pop country era, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, very oftentimes so tropey between patriotism and heteronormativity and all of it. At the same time, I think about this sort of outgrowth of artists like Orville Peck. And I want to say it's not Maggie Rogers, but there's a number of Maggie Moore, right? Who I think are all queer artists who have kind of come out of that movement, really kind of adopting some of those pieces and kind of queering them in their own right.
Yeah. Because there are queer kids in the country too. They're just existing a little bit quieter for safety reasons sometimes. So I love all the queer country that is coming out these days. It is beautiful to see folks being a little bit more loud and proud.
Maybe we'll bring that Tick song for a cover. We'll get it. We'll get a good.
Yeah, it's so campy. You've really got it's such a campy song. I don't remember who it's by. You should.
I'm going to steal one of the questions here that we have on our list. Stick with lyrics because I definitely want to hear the answer to this one. What's the pettiest you've ever been in a song lyric? And would you do it again?
Yeah, I've written some diss tracks. Let's see. I exited a relationship, and upon exiting this relationship, this ex of mine was kind of hanging around some of the places that I would frequent. And I wrote a song about it and then played it at that place to all of those people. And the lyric was, I heard that lately you're hanging around all the places in town that I usually attend. Your motivation's unclear as you hug the veneer and smoke cigarettes on the stairs with all of my friends. So that's a little petty moment. I also have a song. This one's not out, but it's a song about sort of clout chasing, ladder climbing individuals, and the title of the song is "Do You Love Me or Do You Love the Idea of What I Can Do for You?" And I'll recite a little bit of the lyrics of it, but it's I'm gearing up to explode just like a supernova, and you have the stars in your eyes. Thicker than honey is the praise you've been pouring. You're ready to catch you some flies. I'm oddly flattered by the sweet little lies. You see a ladder and you're ready to climb. But tell me the truth. Do you love me or do you love the idea of what I can do for you?
There you go. There you go. I mean, that songs are you can all that honest. You just want to take out that moment and then share with them, and you just wait for them to listen to it somewhere, and you're just gonna be like, "Yes, it's about you. This song is about you," as Carly Simon said. This song is in
I
fact
mean,
about you.
it comes with the territory of dating a songwriter, I suppose. A little mentally prepared for it.
Well, let me ask, what does power beyond pride mean to you?
Hmm. Well, I think we were talking earlier about collective liberation and intersectionality in activism and the importance of that. And I think it is so important for folks to be spending their time and energy developing their identity, feeling comfortable in their sense of self, feeling loud and proud of who they are, having a community that supports them, that reflects back to them. That is very important. But if that's the end goal, there's so much beyond that in terms of work that needs to be done, because then there is a collective gathering of resources of collaborating across ideologies and identities that builds even more power. Because when there are more folks that are working class, that are struggling and ultimately beyond our identities have some of the same wants and needs, which is to live a happy life, to have loved ones, to have food, to have shelter. And when we can look beyond identity and see that it's really a fight of up and down versus instead of maybe left and right, I think that's when some real change can happen. Uh, So identity is so important. Comfortability in your sense of self in community. So once you find that, where can it go? What change can you impact in your world and our systems of existing?
Absolutely. And our final two questions: where
Yeah.
can people follow you and your work? And do you have any upcoming projects that you feel like is that you're turning the page into something new?
Yeah. So you can find me on the internet. Ashley Virginia is my name. I actually worked really hard to make it so that when you Google Ashley Virginia, it does not give you directions because that is a place. I've been there, didn't find anything cool. There was like a yard sale. I bought a pair of cowboy boots. Anyways, Ashley Virginia, Google me. AshleyVirginia.music is my on all of the social places. AshleyVirginiamusic.com is my website. I have a link on there to subscribe to my Patreon if you want to support me beyond my social. I share a little bit deeper in that space and some projects that I have coming up. I am always writing, I'm always recording. So I'll have some new releases in 2026 that are coming out. And I'm currently in the midst of planning a tour in March and April of this 2026 that is in partnership with North Carolina by Train. I'm going to be taking a tour from North Carolina to New York and back by train. So that's just a fun little side quest here. I'm happy and excited to be partnered with a public transit system to take this journey. I think public transit is such an important part of accessibility in our society. And it's not great here. It could be a lot better. So I'm hoping that this project will highlight and maybe generate some interest and love into that area of our society. We don't need all of these fancy self-driving cars. Just bring back the trains. So that's a little project I have going on next year. And I'm taking a class on mixing and mastering right now. So the music that I'll be putting out next year is I'm already a producer on all of the music that I put out, but I am pouring more of my attention and energy into developing my skills as a producer. So expect to hear some new sounds from me next year. I'm also going to be hosting a songwriter round that I've been hosting around North Carolina for a number of years. I call it What the Folk Songwriter Sessions. And I have myself and then two other songwriters sit in the round style with me, and we take turns sharing a song and swapping stories. And I love this series because it creates a very intentional listening space. And I yapped a whole bunch earlier about how important and powerful it is to tell your story and share power of song. So I'm very excited to be hosting those. That'll be in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then who else? Who else knows what's going on? The world is changing very quickly. And so I'm just along for the ride, writing a lot of songs.
That is a packed schedule. That's a lot of amazing stuff in the mix. Are you kidding me? That's great.
I stay busy.
Undoubtedly. And again, that people could follow you at your site, Ashley Virginia Music, right? Or Ashley Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ashley Virginia Music,
Ashley Virginia Music is the website. Yep.
Okay. And then also on all your social feeds, look up Ashley Virginia. You get to see great performances. I'm a follower. You should be a follower. Everybody here listening should be a follower. So thank you, Ashley, so much for being here today. It just means the world. You've shared so much insight, so much, again, just in your own journey, but also really reframing even the idea of music and queer collaboration and what that means, I think, for artists that are independent, but also how we work collectively to create community. So again, thank you so much for sharing this today. We would love to have you back in the future.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Yes, everyone, please give Ashley a follow and check out her work at ashleyvirginiamusic.com. I'm your co-host, Daniel W.K. Lee, and you can follow me at Strong Plum on Instagram and Upscrolled, and danielwklee.bsky.social on Blue Sky.
And I am your other co-host, Shane Lukas, and I am the owner of A Great Idea, a lifelong harm reductionist and activist. I'm a collector of records. You can follow me at shanelukas.com, agreatidea.com, any of those channels. You'll find me there. And you can remember to subscribe and get your friends to subscribe to Power Beyond Pride on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can check out more information at our site at powerbeyondpride.com.
Power Beyond Pride is a project of A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at agreatidea.com.
This episode is produced by Shane Lukas, that'd be me. Maddie Bynum is the project developer. Hi, Maddie. Our editor is Jarrett Redding. Hi, Jarrett. And with support from the fantastic Ian Wilson. Hi, Ian.
We are both part of this podcast's awesome host team, and we invite you to send in your questions and comments at powerbeyondpride.com.
For our mail slot section.
For our slot.
Enter
our slot with your questions.
Please enter our slot. Check out new episodes each week, and we look forward to queer change making with you next time. Thank you from all of us at Power Beyond Pride. We'll see you soon.
Your mission is vital. Let A Great Idea help you magnify its impact. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency serving nonprofits, healthcare, and education nationwide since 2015, we're dedicated to growing, empowering, and activating your advocates. Our award-winning work speaks for itself. We deliver transformative change. Ready to see your impact grow? Book a session and let's get started at agreatidea.com. That's agreatidea.com. Community organizers, are you ready to unlock new levels of impact? A Great Idea is offering a fantastic collection of free downloadable tools, helpful white papers, and so much more. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency empowering change since 2015, we're dedicated to providing you with the resources you need to grow, empower, and activate your communities. Discover insightful knowledge and practical tools to enhance your work. Explore A Great Idea's free resources today at agreatidea.com/insights. That's agreatidea.com/insights.